Contrary to popular belief, Coca-Cola did not create the legend of Santa Claus, but they did play a big role in the appearance of the modern-day Santa Claus. In 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned Haddon Sundblom to paint Santa for their Thirst Knows No Season campaign. Sundblom modeled his version of Santa after his neighbor. His paintings established Santa as a warm, happy man with human features such as rosy cheeks, a full white beard, twinkling eyes, and laughter lines. Sundblom also drew inspiration from Clement Clark Moore's A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as you probably know it as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and probably Thomas Nast's drawing according to the poem. Sundblom's painting was an instant hit and would go on to replace other depictions of Santa found around the world. Oftentimes, Santa was depicted as a tall, gaunt man or an elf. In some parts of the world, there were even scary Santas. The legend of Santa Claus can be traced all the way back to a 3rd century monk called Saint Nicholas. He was born sometime around 280 AD in modern-day Turkey. He was known for his piety and kindness, so much so that he became the subject of many legends. He was said to have given up all of his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside, helping the poor and the sick. For example, in one of his most famous stories, he saved 3 poor sisters from being sold into slavery or prostitution by their father by providing them with dowries so that they could be married off. His feast day is on the anniversary of his death, December 6th, which is also considered a lucky day to make big purchases or even to get married. Eventually, by the Renaissance, Saint Nicholas became the most popular saint in all of Europe. He was still very popular, especially in Holland, even after the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation discouraged the veneration of saints, but Saint Nicholas seemed immune to it. Saint Nicholas eventually made it to America towards the end of the 18th century. A New York newspaper reported that groups of Dutch families gathered to honor the anniversary of his death on December 1773 and again on December 1774. The name Santa Claus evolved from Saint Nicholas's Dutch nickname Sinterklaas, which is short for Saint Nicolaas, which is Dutch for Saint Nicholas. In 1804, John Pintard, a member of the New York Historical Society, gave out woodcuts of Saint Nicholas at the Society's yearly meeting. The engravings had an earlier version of the modern-day Santa, along with stockings filled with toys and fruit hung over the fireplace. In 1809, Washington Irving did his part popularizing Sinterklaas by referring to Saint Nicholas as the patron saint of New York in his book, The History of New York. As Sinterklaas's notoriety grew, he was depicted as everything from a rascal with a blue 3-cornered hat, red waistcoat, and yellow stockings, to a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat and a huge pair of Flemish trunk hose. In 1822, a minister from New York named Clement Clark Moore wrote a Christmas poem for his 3 daughters called A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as you may know it as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Moore did not want to publish his poem because he thought it was silly, but its success helped shape Santa as we know him today. In the poem, Santa was a chubby, right jolly old elf who had the supernatural ability to go up the chimney with a simple nod of his head. Moore was probably inspired from other sources such as Kris Kringle, Jewel Tom 10, and Father Christmas. Christ Kind, or Kris Kringle, delivered presents to well-behaved German and Swiss children on Christmas. Christ Kind, or Kris Kringle, means Christ child, and he's an angel-like figure that is accompanied by Saint Nicholas on his Christmas mission. In Scandinavia, a jolly old elf called Jewel Tom 10, or simply Tom 10, delivered gifts in a sleigh drawn by goats. According to English legend, Father Christmas visits each house on Christmas Eve to fill children's stockings with holiday treats. Morse poem created an American icon that rapidly grew in popularity. Then, in 1881, Thomas Nast, a political cartoonist, drew Santa according to Moore's poem. His take on Santa was a chubby, cheerful man with a full white beard carrying a sack full of toys for deserving children. His cartoon, which appeared in Harper's Weekly, is the prototype of the modern-day Santa. He would also go on to give Santa his bright red suit trimmed with white fur, his North Pole workshop with elf workers, and his wife, Mrs. Claus. From 1931 to 1964, Coca-Cola used Sunbloom Santa for their advertising during the Christmas season. Their ad showed Santa delivering and playing with toys, pausing to read letters, and enjoying a Coke, visiting children who stayed up for him, and raiding refrigerators. Sunbloom Santa was adapted for Coca-Cola ads in magazines, store displays, billboards, posters, calendars, and even plush dolls. His Santa was everywhere come Christmas season. His final version of Santa was created in 1964, but Coca-Cola continued to use images of Santa based on his work for several decades.